Welcome to the XRP Legend 13-part series, explaining the Interledger protocol family and the ISO 20022 ecosystem. At the heart of it all, XRP. After watching this series, you will understand why this is the greatest opportunity in history. Naturally, the greatest opportunity will coincide with the greatest fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I used to work for CGI, who helped build the SWIFT financial system. Now they're helping Ripple build the new quantum financial system. Luckily, crypto has blessed me with the opportunity to quit and pursue what I was always meant to do, which is to prepare as many people as possible for the great dangers or great benefits of the new quantum financial system. Let's take a look at my research. This may be our last chance. Episode 1, $80 trillion solution, XRP and Interledger protocol. Let me just start off by saying, the crypto speculation market that started in March 2020 and ended roughly November 2021 is over. I'll even go as far to say that price was in no way correlated with utility. It was purely correlated with speculation and hedge funds leveraging into these assets and taking profits at the very top, leaving the common folk in the dust. Crypto projects, as well as zombie companies in the S&P 500, were used as vehicles to pump printed money into, leverage that debt, and invest even more, and then all the hedge funds sold at the very top. This corrupt speculative market is over, and things are deleveraging now. You can see it with FTX, BlockFi, Three Arrows Capital, Voyager, even before that with Luna, and now moving forward we might have another deleveraging event with Tether. So there may still be downside, but after the dust settles and all of the leverage is out of the system, then there is no way forward except for up, because the true utility of crypto is about to shine greatly. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this episode, how the Interledger protocol connects everything and where the true utility in crypto lays. Let's start off by discussing the multi-trillion-dollar problem that the Interledger protocol and XRP solve. Here they're saying that the foreign exchange market has an $80 trillion blind spot, which is completely ridiculous. Let me explain how this works. Basically what happens is that banks or non-banks, in this example, the Dutch pension fund, will borrow dollars and then trade those dollars for euros, and then they will lend out those euros on 10x leverage before repaying the dollars back. Now imagine every organization in the world doing this on a mass scale. This is fine when interest rates are low because there's no incentive to pay the debt back. But now, since the Fed has been hiking interest rates up, this is becoming a problem because people lent out those euros or whatever they lent out on leverage, meaning if that asset goes below the liquidation price, then they owe money to everybody else. Not only that, if the price hasn't gone below the liquidation price, they owe a premium on these loans that they need to pay every month. The problem goes much deeper than just this. Our banks have always lended out 90% of our deposits and invested our deposits elsewhere with 10x leverage. They've been doing it since the Great Depression. And when interest rates are low, they can add more leverage because there is no incentive to pay the loan back. And if the investment fails, the central bank can bail them out with your paycheck, like they did in 2007 during the financial crisis. When these projects fail and the central bank prints money to bail them out, they are basically adding more currency to the global supply of currency. But no actual value is being created or added to the global pile of value. The ratio is off. Real things that are valuable are things like gold, oil, land, technology, data, but that's not being created, just more currency. Then what ends up happening is that your money ends up being worth less than it did before. You can buy less things. This is also known as inflation. The same pattern has occurred every 7 years since the Great Depression. To name a few, there was the 1980s debt crisis, the 2000s tech bubble, the 2015 commodity crisis, and then 2020, what just happened? We all know what happened in 2020. Now bear with me because I'm about to show you how Interledger protocol and XRP come into play and save the day here. But basically, the world's wealthiest organizations like this system. Wouldn't you? Imagine going to the casino and being able to have unlimited chips and take away as much money as you want without the security beating you up, and you have professional card counters advising you the entire time. Real money are things that are truly valuable to humans, like gold, oil, water, lumber, other commodities, property, farmland, technology, data, not paper or numbers on a screen. So imagine you could make as much currency as you wanted with absolutely no consequences. What would you do? Would you make as much as possible and then immediately go and buy things of true value? Maybe things like gold, things like farmland? Or maybe you'd buy these juicy family homes. Or maybe you'd invest in FTX. What other Ponzi schemes are out there? Think about it. Shoot. But the thing is, there are consequences for them. If they lose our trust, then they cannot create any more currency. However, we won't lose trust in them if there's a really, really good reason to create new cash or e-cash. So in short, I know this is a very long-winded answer, but we're getting to the juicy stuff. One financial crisis after another every 7 years since the Great Depression. With every financial crisis comes a reason to increase the currency supply, which lowers the value of money. But people are not paid more to make up for it. And the regular people pay the price by being unable to afford healthy food or even rent. Basically, the world's wealthiest organizations get really big loans that they never have to pay back, and they use them to buy real things, gold, and land. Once these most powerful groups in the world are happy with their share of valuable things, they will seek to end the game of musical chairs by creating a new Bretton Woods type agreement where the world agrees that the amount of cash or e-cash cannot increase without the reserves of gold, oil, or property rights or other commodities increasing as well. Central banks will no longer be able to print money in the new digital system, which seems like a good thing, and it is. But unfortunately, by then, they will have already pulled off the greatest heist in history by managing to own most of the wealth, and coincidentally, we own less of it, and we are not happy. But here's the catch. If we want to be a part of the heist, they are actually allowing us to do so in a safe and legal way by investing in the technology that will connect the value of physical things of real value to digital money and connect every network on Earth via the blockchain. And I will explain this concept throughout the series, so bear with me here. But the Interledger protocol will essentially save our global network of institutions from liquidating their leveraged positions due to our currently high interest rate environment, because an increase of 86,400% transaction speed and a 100 times reduction in transaction cost basically removes all friction from the system. And that will equate to trillions of dollars of wealth creation once the technology is fully adopted. Furthermore, if an institution can prove to their lenders that they can have additional funds transferred to their account in a lightning fast manner, then the lender will be willing to lower their liquidation price, giving the institution more breathing room before they have to liquidate and close out their positions. I think I need to find simpler ways to explain that, and I will in future episodes in this series. That was my 30,000 foot overview of the entire situation. Well, what is actually the Interledger protocol? Let's get into it. The central problem is that there is currently no simple way to move money between ledgers, right? Do you have PayPal, Venmo, Bitcoin? Do any of us share a bank in common? That search for a shared ledger is often ended in disappointment and inconvenience. What about Ethereum? What about Quorum? What about the Bank of International Settlements multi-CBDC chain? The list goes on and on of private blockchains all over the world. How do they connect? Interledger is a network of networks. Scalability from micropayments all the way to billion-dollar distributions. It's possible to transact at any level without ever considering the difference in ledgers, any more than users of the internet today worry about sending emails from Gmail to Yahoo. So this $80 trillion blind spot would have never happened with the Interledger protocol. Once the internet became a single global market, the most successful companies were the ones that stopped worrying about the size of their network and stopped worrying about the added value they could provide. They started worrying about how they could be as efficient as possible and provide the best customer access to the internet. There is nothing that I've seen that remotely does what the Interledger protocol does. It will be the network that connects all private blockchains to be able to seamlessly do business with each other without worrying about scalability, security, or privacy, which may be the most important aspect. And privacy is something that we'll touch on heavily in later videos. Implementing the Interledger protocol in Ripple. How Ripple address scalability and transaction privacy. Privacy, scalability. Just as it is today, the world's wealthiest banks and organizations do not want their data to be public. It is vital to all business that they're able to keep a high level of transaction privacy for themselves and their customers. The Interledger protocol and Ripple's public ledger, or the XRPL, are completely two separate things. However, using the Interledger protocol, banks can leverage unlimited scalability and complete transaction privacy. Today, banks are developing Ripple's solution for cross-currency settlement and FX market making. What's the issue everyone's having? Foreign exchange trading and over leveraging because of lack of direct information about scale and location, counterparty risks, less visibility, and leverage. Too much leverage in the system. The Interledger protocol enabled banks won't have to change much. The Interledger protocol enables transactions across any number of different ledgers and exchanges using cryptographic escrow. Escrow is very important, which I'll touch upon later. The thing is that the Interledger protocol is currency and country agnostic. It's completely neutral. It's just a tool. You can use XRP on the Interledger protocol to make transactions, but you don't have to if you program another currency in. It just so happens that XRP is the best bridge asset for market makers, providing cross-currency liquidity as it stands now, due to security, scalability, speed, and cost. Those are a lot of factors. Oh yeah, and privacy. The Interledger protocol was created by these two people here, possibly the two greatest geniuses of our time, flying completely under the radar. Created a protocol that will provide the most value to the internet of blockchains out of anything created, and yet nobody talks about them, which I'm sure they probably like more than being famous. Stephen Thomas, straight from the horse's mouth. XRP first, then Bitcoin and ETH more over time. XRP is going to solve the liquidity crisis that we're currently experiencing. They'll also bridge the gap between Bitcoin network and Ethereum network and Quorum and the Bank of International Settlements multi-CBDC network, and the list goes on and on and on. It will connect all the blockchain networks. Evan Schwartz, formerly worked at Ripple, also a co-creator. And it's the reason that Ripple has implemented everything they do with the Interledger protocol. Remember, the Interledger protocol isn't Ripple, it's its own entity. And anyone can align their products to work with the Interledger protocol. However, few do. Most likely because Ripple is so far ahead of the game that at this point it would be more beneficial for everybody to use the system rather than create their own. Basically, JP Morgan created their own private blockchain, Quorum. Every bank that signed up to the Quorum network can trade with each other lightning fast with JPM's own cryptocurrency called JPM coin. But now, what if Quorum wants to do business with Swift GPI private blockchain? Then they're going to need the Interledger protocol to facilitate the transaction. Basically, it'll take Quorum's JPM coin, put it into escrow, activate the automated market maker, which will pair it with the best pairing to get it to Swift's, whatever Swift is trying to trade on their GPI blockchain, which uses Corda. Now let's go even deeper into the specifics of what the Interledger protocol is to uncover the true utility of cryptocurrency. I just wanted to add that in 2008, Bitcoin was developed, and the timing is not a coincidence. Problem was the 2008 financial crisis. Reaction: people lost their homes, the government bailed out the bankers, and the common folk had to pay for it. Solution: Bitcoin, a way to circumvent the financial system. However, I really do believe that that was a trick to get us back into the financial system. Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin has a finite amount, just like gold. So you can assume that over time, at certain prices, people will sell their Bitcoin to the banks until after a lot of time has passed. Just like gold, the central banks will own most of the Bitcoin. To get Bitcoin, you're going to have to sign up for an exchange that has a master account with the Federal Reserve. So every Bitcoin that you own will be fully tracked and only spendable in certain ways. I'm not saying Bitcoin doesn't have its uses, but I'm saying people bought it thinking that they're circumventing the system, and they're just not. In the immediate future, the problem we are facing are siloed payment networks and an illiquid market where everybody owes each other too much money on their loans, and essentially the entire system freezes. And solutions that solve these problems are going to be the ones that spark the next crypto utility market. And that, my friends, is the only way to quote unquote escape the system. Although we know to truly escape is impossible. The best we can do is accumulate as many resources for ourselves and use that to help ourselves, our friends, and our family around us. Payments are relatively easy in one country, but across borders and across ledgers and across networks, things get very confusing very quickly. The Interledger protocol provides for routing payments across different digital asset ledgers while isolating senders and receivers from the risk of intermediary failures. Secure multi-hop payments and automatic routing enables a global network of networks for different types of value that can connect any sender with any receiver. And this is where automated market makers come into play, which I'm going to explain in detail in this series. It's funny the language they use here. In the Ripple case, the first thing I think of is lawsuit, but here they are talking about truly in the case of Ripple, who has integrated the Interledger protocol into every single one of their products. In the case of Ripple, the Interledger module would call on a local ledger module, which would create a Ripple transaction. The central functions of the Interledger protocol are addressing hosts and securing payments across different ledgers. In this context, a ledger may be a small ledger owned by an individual or organization, or a large public ledger, such as Bitcoin. If you heard before merging of the public and private ledgers, this is it, the Interledger protocol. It can merge private to private ledgers, public to private, public to public, any network. Basically, the application pays the ledger holds it in escrow, finds the best route by going through sometimes multiple currencies, sometimes just one currency. And after it's traded through the currency and the receiver verifies that that's how much they are owed and accepts the transaction, the Interledger releases the payment from escrow and it ends up in the receiver's hands. Now, it states here why we might wonder why web monetization hasn't happened sooner. I mean, hasn't it already happened? Not exactly. Being paid on the internet today always goes through an intermediary. It takes time and it costs money, which means usually there's a minimum payout for how much you can get paid. At the end of the day, this hurts the little guy the most. But the Interledger is fully scalable, down from pennies, possibly trillions, quadrillions of dollars. It enables simple ledger agnostic and currency agnostic method to transfer small quantities of money. This will enable fair and instantaneous monetization of your product or service online for the first time in history. Anything can be a ledger, right? PayPal's a ledger, Venmo's a ledger, even Starbucks is a ledger. Your bank account is a ledger. You could have a ledger with a friend if you just got a piece of paper and wrote down what you both owe each other. Now, the problems appear when you try to transfer some of that value stored in a ledger. There just isn't interoperability of any of those ledgers that I just mentioned. From PayPal to a promissory note between you and your friend to the Bitcoin network. There's no interoperability or very little. This is interesting. So the biggest public network of interconnected computers is colloquially known as the internet, in the same way that the Interledger protocol is used to describe a network of interconnected ledgers that can transport real value between them. The biggest public network that implements the protocol is called Interledger. It allows web monetization without being tied to a single currency or payment provider, or send payments to other ledgers, even if they are multi-hops away. Try sending money from Brisbane, Australia to Panama City in Panama. I dare you. I guarantee you those two corresponding banks are multiple hops away, and it can take up to 7 days and have insanely high fees. But with the Interledger protocol and automated market making, it chooses currency pairs and gets to the other side of the world just like an email is sent. It costs almost no time or money. One of the side effects of the initial design of the Interledger protocol was the ability to exchange any value amount, including extremely small values or extremely big values. But the banks can't do really small values. They just can't. It doesn't make economic sense.